it's Brianna. So today's video is going to be a spooky paranormal story time video. It is the month of Halloween. I don't know why, does anyone else do this? Like for me, October is Halloween. Like I don't, and like November is Thanksgiving and December is Christmas. Like I know, like I don't know, for some reason when I go to talk about the months, that's just how my brain registers them. Like, so it's Halloween for me, even though it's not Halloween yet. But anyway, so that made me think like, I hope I get this video up in time. Anyway, I'm like all over the place. So I'm going to tell you guys a spooky little story today. I figure I might as well since it is the month of Halloween, and one of my favorite things during this month is all the spooky stuff around everywhere, you know. So this story, disclaimer, I'm not going to say that this story is a ghost because I personally don't really believe in ghosts. I find ghost stories fascinating. I love watching them. I love listening to them. I think it's interesting, but I don't necessarily believe that they're true. So my thoughts on what this story is basically just my subconscious or my brain, because during this story you'll find out that I was on the verge of sleep. So I think that a lot of it was just my subconscious like projecting things and making me see things. But if you think this is paranormal, then that's fine, you know, whatever you think is whatever you think. I'm just gonna tell it. So this is a true story, believe it or not. This actually happened, and I can't remember exactly when this happened. I have a brief timeline because I lived in Georgia for a significant point of my significant amount of time in my life before moving off to Kansas. And when I lived in Georgia, we lived in 2 different towns, and so I remember that this was in the second town that we lived in right before we moved. So I know that I was anywhere from being in 5th grade up until my freshman year of high school. But I'm gonna say this is probably, because of the book that I was reading at the time, I'm gonna say this was probably either 7th or 8th grade when this happened, which would have been 2007 or 2008, so anywhere from those years. I don't know how old that would have made me. Let's see how old that would have made me. I can't do math, sorry, I was grabbing my phone. So, that's not 2007. That would have made me 13 or 14 when this happened. Now my phone's frozen on my phone, on my calculator. Okay, anyway, so I would have been 13 or 14 when this happened. So that's kind of the best timeline. That's probably the most accurate timeline. I've tried to tell this story a couple of times, and that's probably the most accurate timeline I've ever given. But that has to be around the time, just because of all the specifics that were happening at the time. So anyway, so basically, one night, I don't remember if it was a school night, I don't remember if it was a weekend. All I do know is that I shared a room with my younger sister, who would have been in elementary school at the time. And I think she would have been in 4th grade. I feel like she would have been in 4th or 5th grade at the time. Maybe 3rd, I don't know, 3rd seems a little young. But regardless, she was in elementary school at the time. Like I said, I was definitely in middle school at the time, for sure, I know that much. We shared a room, and during this time, I often had, I've always had trouble sleeping. And back then, what I used to do is I used to read books. And my mom had given me this little, like, book light. I don't know why that was so difficult. That's exactly what it was. It was one of those lights that you attach to your book, and then it hangs over and you can shine your light, whatnot. So she had given me one of those because she knew that I like to stay up and read, but she didn't want me keeping my little sister up, obviously. So instead of having my lamp on, I would have my book light on. And normally I would read with the covers over my head for as long as I could, just because I would try to block out the light. So this was one of those nights. I was having trouble sleeping, so I was up late reading, And basically what happened was I got to the point where you're really, really tired. You're falling asleep. Like I was falling asleep in between reading. I would like fall asleep, wake up, and I have to reread what I was reading. But the book was so interesting, I didn't want to stop reading it. So I was definitely out of it, definitely on the verge of sleep, which is kind of why I don't think that this was paranormal, but you know, take it how you will. So it was getting to that point where I should probably go to sleep. And, sorry, really, my camera is already overheating. We're gonna stop and come back because my camera's overheating. Okay, so we're back. So, anyway, like I was saying, so at this point in time, I was getting to that point where I should go to sleep. So I almost wiped lipstick all over my face. So I turned off my light and I put my book down and I kind of, you know, I rolled over, got ready to go to sleep, whatnot. So I was laying there for not very long at all before I started to hear what sounded like a little girl crying. Now, my first instinct at this point was it was probably my younger sister because of the tone of the voice. That's what it sounded like to me. It sounded like my little sister. So I turned on my lamp or my light or whatever and looked over at her and saw that it wasn't her crying. So I was like, okay, well, you know, maybe my parents are still awake and they're watching TV. So a quick little like backstory of the way this house is set up. Well, just this part. So basically we had this hallway, and mine and my little sister's bedroom was the first door on the hallway. And then when you went down a little bit, there was our bathroom, or mine and my sister's bathroom that we shared. And then my older sister's room was across from that. And then sitting at the very end of the hallway so they could see everything was my parents' bedroom. So that's kind of important for what's coming next. So I was like, okay, well, maybe my parents are still awake. So I've always been, I don't know, like, things always kind of freaked me out, you know, and like, this is one of those times where when you're watching a horror movie and you see someone get up to do something stupid and you're like, I would never do that in real life. Well, this is totally one of those situations where you do that in real life. So I got up and decided to see what it was. I wanted to know where the sound was coming from, or else I wasn't going to be able to sleep. So I got up, still kind of innocently thinking at this point, and I poked my head out of my room, and I could immediately see my parents' room because of the way it was set up, and their door was open as usual, and there was no TV on. I would have been able to tell because, like I said, their door is always open, so you can always see the light from their TV. So I knew that their TV was off, and because they both snore oh so loudly, I knew that they were both very much asleep. So the only other explanation at this point was that my older sister was still awake and that she was watching something on her TV. So she used to keep her door shut a lot though, so the only way that I could really tell if it was her would have been to go down to her room. So that's what I did. I walked down to her room, and just standing outside of her door, I stood there for a minute with my like ear pressed up against the door, and I didn't hear anything. There wasn't really any light shining from underneath the door, but I decided to open it anyway. So I slowly opened it, saw that her TV was off and that she was also asleep, and at that point I got kind of freaked out, because now there's one thing to note. Like, when I was in the hallway, this sound had stopped. It started enough to catch my attention, and as soon as it had my attention and I was trying to figure out what it wasn't happening anymore. So I kind of was like, okay, well, this is a little creepy. So I ran back to my room after shutting her door, and I got back in my bed. I believe I shut our bedroom door as well. I can't remember, but I think I had shut our bedroom door as well. And I got back in bed, threw my covers over my head, and I was just like, I don't know what it is. I'm going back to sleep. So you know, all was quiet for a significant amount of time. I had started to go back to sleep at this point, you know, like 3 or 4 minutes, right? Which I view as significant. Anyway, so I started to go back to sleep, and right as I was starting to doze off, it started again. And this time I was a little more freaked out because I knew that everyone in my house was asleep except for me. We did have animals, but at the time, wow, I can't even remember. We had a dog, and I think we only had one dog at the time, and we had 2 cats, and the cats slept on like this screened-in porch. We had like a screened-in porch, and that's where the cats kind of stayed, and that's where they slept. Which it was pretty far off from where I was, so there's, you know, and it didn't sound like a cat crying, you know what I mean? I can't remember where our dog slept, but I think our dog slept outside at the time. So there, regardless of where he slept, he wasn't close enough to us for me to be able to hear him. And once again, it was pretty distinctly a child crying, a little girl crying, not like an animal or something. So I was pretty freaked out when it started again, and it just got worse. Basically, it started out as just crying, and then it slowly changed into someone gagging or like dry heaving, like they were trying to throw up, but nothing was coming up. And that's what it sounded like. And the sound, I could tell at this point, was coming from my parents' bedroom. It was that far back. And it slowly, you know how when sound travels, like if you're sitting in the hallway and people walk from one end of the hallway to the other talking, how as they get closer to you, the sound gets louder, and as it goes away, it's like it's distinct. The way that sound travels is very distinct. So this little girl was crying and like dry heaving, and I could hear her slowly approaching my bedroom. Like I said, I could definitely tell that it was starting from down the hallway where my parents' bedroom was, and just slowly working its way up to mine and my little sister's bedroom. And I was absolutely terrified. It was, the sound itself was upsetting because it sounded like someone needed help and I couldn't help them, like someone was sick and I couldn't help them. And then not only that, but to hear very distinctly someone walking through your house at night when you know everyone in your house is asleep is a really, really scary feeling. And this felt like it drug out forever. It couldn't have lasted that long. The hallway's not that big, but it felt like it would have lasted forever. And eventually it got to our door, like right at our door, and it stopped. And that was it. I never heard it again. I think I stayed awake for so long after that. All I wanted to do was wake my little sister up, but you know, even to this day, I don't, well, back when I lived with them, I wouldn't tell her when I would find a spider in the house because she'd be too freaked out to sleep. And so I knew it was kind of best not to say anything to her that night. I don't remember. I do think I've told this story to everyone in my family. I'm not sure if I have, but definitely didn't tell it to them immediately. It freaked me out. It freaked me out a lot. I stayed up a lot that night. Finally dozed off and went to sleep. Like I said, never happened again. The only other thing that really ever happened in that house that was kind of weird, kind of unexplained, so we had 2 living rooms, I guess. Basically the way the house was set up was it was built like a normal house with a living room and then the hallway for the bedrooms and then a kitchen and then a little there was this little area that was like the back door, and attached to the house used to be the garage. Well, they changed that. They changed it from a garage into an actual room and extended it off from the rest of the house. They added like this huge living room, which we called the den, and then there was a bathroom, a pretty big, significant sized bathroom with a shower, some like cabinet space, like lots of cabinets, and then a sink and a toilet, and then there was a laundry room, and then out behind that was a pool. So that's why that bathroom was kind of big, because it was meant for the pool. And then they built a garage separate from the house. So I was in the front living room, the area that we actually called the living room. I was in there with my grandma and I believe one of my sisters. I can't remember. I can't remember who all was with me in the room, but I do know my grandma was with me in the room, and then the rest of the family was outside. And we were in there talking or something, having a conversation with her, and then all of a sudden there was this sound like a box fell. And it came from the other side of the house where the den was, the laundry room, all that stuff. Nothing like alarming really at first, because, well, it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird that a random box would have fallen, but you know, that happens sometimes. So we got up, well, my grandma was like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. We don't know what that was. So we got up to go check, and I looked everywhere. I looked every room back there. I looked every room in the front of the house, even though clearly the noise had come from the back of the house. I searched everywhere and I could not find anything that was knocked over. The only other thought was maybe something in the attic fell. But once again, it was very distinct where the sound came from. Never found what it was that fell over. And then when the rest of the family wound up coming inside, I asked, hey, did you guys knock something over? Did you hear that sound, like a bang? They're like, no, we never heard anything. So, and my grandma, I remember her specifically making a remark that like freaked me out at the time. But then later on thinking about it, I was like, it was hilarious to me. I can't remember what she said, but that was pretty much the only other unexplained thing that really ever happened in that house as far as I can remember. I still don't know. I don't know what the little girl was. I don't know what fell over. I think at some point someone checked the attic, but nothing was knocked over there either. I don't know, it was pretty weird. But anyway, this video is getting kind of long, so I'm gonna go ahead and go. If you guys enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any thoughts or questions, leave them down below in the comment section. If you want to see more videos from me, then subscribe. I try to put up a video every week. I try. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and go. I hope you all have a wonderful, beautiful, blessed day and a spooky Halloween, and I will see you all next week. Bye.